Two-time U.S. Open 9-ball champion. Dynamite, Darren, Appleton.
I came from the mud.
Looks good. Looks good. It is good.
Most important one was winning the World 10-ball championship because it's everyone's dream to be world champion.
Could go into the edge of this.
I'm a grinder, fighter, play with a lot of emotion, a lot of art. Hello guys, welcome back to another Back to Basics edition, and today I'm going to go over the push out. Probably the most important shot in pool, especially at professional level. The first shot after the break, whether you're pushing out or playing safe off the first shot, is massive. You need to try and beat your opponent to the shot and outsmart your opponent to the shot. So I'm going to show you how to push out, where to push out, and the best percentage place to push out to give you more opportunities to win more games and beat your opponent to the shot. So let's go into it, guys. I've set up a situation here, and I've seen this situation loads of time after the break shot. I've landed behind the 8, it could be any ball, and you got the 1 over the pocket, the 2's quite close to the 1, and there's no natural path really for a simple kick shot to make the 1 ball. You can't jump over the 8 ball because it's too close to the 8. You can't come off the side rail because these balls are in the way. You can't come this rail, very tight window to just miss a 6. Coming this way is not possible because the 7's in the way. The only real path you would have is going the free railer here to try and make the 1 quite a low percentage shot. And even if you make the 1 ball, you'd be landing straight on the 2, so getting on the 3 would be impossible anyway, so there's no benefit in trying to make this 1 ball. So it's very important after the break that you survey the table, not just the lowest ball on the table, which in this case is the 1, where the 2 ball is very important also. So after the break here, I won't even consider trying to kick at this 1 ball because it's very one, it's very difficult. 2, there's not really much benefit if I do make it because getting on the 3 is going to be, unless I get very lucky and leave an angle on the 2, it's virtually impossible to get a shot on the 3. So it's very simple. All I would do here after the break is call a push out and just stay in the game. So all I'd do here is play the 8 ball onto the 1, just like this. And by doing that, I'm staying in the game. My opponent is going to come to the table. He's got the option what to do. It's not a straightforward, easy safety shot. It's not a difficult safety shot, but you're staying in the game. So even if your opponent plays a really good safety, so for example, he's probably going to put the 2 down here with the cue ball behind the 4, 6, the 4, 7, and 3, but you're staying in the game. He isn't guaranteed to get that snooker, and you've a chance to play a safety back or a kick shot back. So just staying in the game, where taking that silly risk and trying to pop the 1 ball where the percentages are against you, then that's what you got to really think about when you're playing the push out shot. Right, so example number 2, I've just broke off and we've all landed in this situation. You don't have a shot on the 1 ball and you're thinking, right, where am I going to push out here? Some crazy people are probably trying to jump at this ball, but what's the point? You can't get shape on the 2, or you need a miracle to get on the 2, and making the 1 ball is against you. Pushing out here is no real benefit. Sort of a simple safety to hit the 1 ball over here, try and get the cue ball behind the 8. Not easy, but I still won't push out here. And plus he could flick off the 1 ball and try and get the cue ball behind the 7 and 3. Pushing out anywhere on this side of the table is a big no-no because your opponent's just going to come off the 1 ball, put the 1 ball around here, and the cue ball next to the 2. Pushing out here is not really any good. Yeah, you can leave your opponent a shot where he can spin it in and come around the table, but very, very difficult shot. I'd be more than happy for him to have a go at that and avoid all this traffic. But also, you don't want to leave that cross double. Because if you left the cue ball here, for example, you would be leaving that cross double. It's not easy, but it's sort of a two-way shot, so I wouldn't like that shot. Pushing out into space like here is not great. It's not terrible. Leaving a angle and pushing out here is not great. Because it is makeable to come in between the 6 and the 7 to get shape on the 2. So, like I said on example 1, it's very important to figure out where the next lowest ball is, in this case the 2 ball. So this really makes my decision very easy where I'm going to push out, where if the 1 ball, the 2 ball was up that side of the table, then I'd be in a lot more trouble and it'd be very difficult to know where to push. So all I'd do here is leave myself straight in on this 1 ball. So let's just push out here. I always like to use like the 1 rail to get the cue ball exactly where I want it. I haven't really got it where I want it, but it doesn't matter. It's close enough to the rail where my opponent can't jack up and draw back. Plus, there's a slight angle on the 1. There's no benefit in my opponent trying to make this 1 and come back down table, unless you're like feeling unbelievable and somehow you can smash that ball in and get it down table. But I'd be more than happy for my opponent to play that shot. So I think my opponent would probably give me this shot back, but I had a plan before I pushed out to what I would do if my opponent puts me back in. So the shot what I did see was to come off the 1 ball quite thin, just like this, put the 1 ball here, the cue ball off the short rail, and try and get somewhere behind the 4 ball. The 1 ball, I would have been trying to get the 1 ball around there. And if I get the cue ball here, then I've sort of won that battle. Yes, my opponent can kick it and he might get lucky or get a re-safe, but I feel like I won that exchange. If I didn't leave the snooker, then my opponent still not got an easy shot, and you're staying in the game. So that's very important to survey the table, and more importantly, figure out where the balls are, especially the next lowest ball after the 1 ball, if the 1 ball's the lowest ball on the table. And if you do that, it'll make your decisions when it comes to pushing out a lot easier. Right, so example number 3, because I know a lot of you are thinking, what about if the 2 ball is at that end of the table? Where this is where this push out now becomes very, very tricky. If the 2 ball was here, you could see the options, and it was very simple. Where now, with the 2 ball being quite close to the 1, the push out becomes a lot tougher. If that 2 balls throws the rail like that, it makes it even more tricky. So you can't push out here. You're just leaving it too much of an easy safety to get behind the 8. You might even leave it. You might even go for the bank shot. I don't really recommend that. You don't want to leave the cue ball anywhere here, because he can put the 1 down table, the cue ball here, or even behind the 6, or it can clip off the 1, bring the 1 ball here and the cue ball behind. You've got a big wall of balls to get behind here, so that's a big no-no. We don't want to push out here now, because he can slow roll the ball in. If he makes it, he wins. We can't push out to the original spot. If the 2 ball was here, this is where we pushed out before. We can't push out there, because if he makes it, he wins the game. So the only 2 options I see where the 2 ball is to maybe push out here and leave a jump shot. The great jump players, they probably like their chances. They're probably thinking 50-60% chance of making this. I would still probably give him this shot. Yeah, I'd probably still give him this shot more times than not. But if that 2 ball was throws to the rail, I'm probably thinking, well, I don't have to leave him the push out. I could probably leave him here. The reason why, because he can't make the 1 now and get shape for the 2 in this pocket, and even landing here, now it's not a combination, because the 8's too far off the rail and the 2 doesn't pass the 8. So your opponent, if you pushed out here and that 2 was thrown to the rail, your opponent's probably going to play safe. He's probably going to bank the 1 ball down table and hopefully get the cue ball somewhere near the 8. But still not an easy shot. It takes a lot of good execution to play that shot. So yeah, your opponent will probably take the shot just because of where the 2 is. Again, because you'll be putting the 1 down table. So even if you leave a shot, it's still difficult to get back up table for the 2. So always bear that in mind. If the 2 was off the rail, like this, then that changes everything. Because now, if I push out here, anywhere here, my opponent can make this, and if he gets to the short rail, he has an easy combination, the 2 onto the 8. So that's not any good really. So if the 2's off the rail like that, then I would probably push out to a jump shot where it's makeable but very difficult, and sometimes you just got to take that risk. So practicing every aspect of your game is very important. So yeah, very tricky situation, what we've got here. So that'd probably be my best option, would be to push out here. The other option would be something like I'd tie up the 7, something like that, against the 2. You might get lucky and you don't leave the combo. You haven't left an easy shot on the 1, but again, you've left that sort of safety where he can probably just get the cue ball behind the 8, especially if it's like that. I only can see a little bit of the edge of the 1 ball here, so your opponent probably put you back in because I'd be in a lot of trouble there. But if I left this shot and I tied this ball up, then at least you're staying in the game. So always think out the box if you're in a really bad spot. So for example here, I might have to just kick at this, like a kick safe, try and hit the right side of it, and come out like that. So always think out the box, and sometimes you've got to take them risks, you've got to be creative, but just don't give your opponent too many easy options where it's going to put you in trouble. And if you do that, then your thinking and your push out game is going to massively improve. Right, so example number 4, the final one. So this is just a few I'm showing you, and it will give you a good idea, and hopefully you can get something from it. So I've just broke off again, and I actually had this situation in the World Championships a couple of years ago, and I made this mistake. So I broke off, and this is the lay of the table. I'm thinking, oh, look at the cue ball. I'm bang straight on the 1 ball. Can't get position on the 2. The only way I can get position on the 2 is to try and get the cue ball here, right? So then I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do with the 2? There's no point in trying to make it because I can't get on the 3 because of where the 5 is. But even if the 5 wasn't there and the 5 was there, still making that 2 and getting shape on the 3 is very, very, very difficult. But also making the 2 ball is very difficult. So I could make it and play into a position where there's an easy safe, but I don't really see any easy safety on this 2 ball here. It's difficult to bank the 2 up here and get the snooker. Can't really hit it thin and come around the back of the 6 because the 6 is in the way, meaning throwing the 2 ball there. So yeah, in a lot of trouble here. But it's so hard to tell yourself when you can see the ball that you can push out, and this is what I see a lot of you guys do wrong all the time, is that because you can see the ball, you feel like you got to shoot it. And I actually did it one time, and it was very costly. So for me, the situation here is that the 2 ball's out of play, the 3's in a tricky position. There's no value in me making the 1 ball. So why not maybe try and trick your opponent? Because I'm thinking, even if I make the 1 ball, it's just I'm in such a bad spot that there's just no value in making this 1 ball. So for me, there's maybe 2 options. I could push out by just doing this, right? So now your opponent's going to come to the table, and he might think, well, he might want to play the shot. So you just never know. You can dangle the carrot, but it's probably going to give you it back if there's any common sense. The next option really is to look for alternate push out. So as we said before, pushing out here is really no good because you are leaving a pot, but also you have a lot of balls to get behind, so that's no good. Pushing out sort of here is no good. There's too many blockers to get behind if you're the opponent. So we spoke about before where even if I make this ball, it's very difficult to play safe on this 2 just because of where the balls are. So I think the best option, if I didn't just do that with a cue ball and give my opponent that option and maybe try and dangle the carrot, for me, I'd just call a push out here, and then I'd probably just do this. Call a push out, make the 1, so then your opponent's going to come to the table, and he has the situation and the dilemma what you were thinking, well, it's so hard to make the 2 and get on the 3, and the safety is very difficult. So but it's not impossible. So your opponent's going to come to the table, and then he's got the option whether he wants to play the shot or not, but at least you're staying in the game and you're not trying anything crazy. Right, I said I was going to do 4 examples, but I'm actually going to do 1 more because, again, this is very important also. So I broke off again, landed in this situation. We've all landed in this situation. You're thinking, right, I'm probably going to have to jump at this shot. But the problem at jumping at this 1 ball, the chances of getting shape on the 2 ball is virtually impossible. You'd have to get very, very, very lucky to try and avoid all this traffic. The 2 doesn't go in here, so you'd have to land here, really, or somehow come around the table and land here, which doesn't look possible. So you're sort of scratching your head, But I'd see a lot of people just play the jump shot anyway and make it, and then they're probably land in no man's land, and then they're faced with a tough safety or a tough kick shot. But again, it's very important to survey the table and think, right, that 7 and 5 are sort of helping you in this situation. So I'm thinking, why not tie a ball up? People overlook this shot so much, it's unbelievable. So I'm thinking straight away, why not just push out and tie the 2 ball up? So if I just tie the 2 ball up here against this pink 4, just like that, right, I haven't left a combo there, so he can't make the 1 somehow come in between the 7 and the 5 and combo this. So your opponent's going to come to the table and he's thinking, how am I going to get shape on the 2 ball or even try and break these 2 balls out? It's just not possible because the 7 and the 5 are helping you. Yeah, he can make the 1 ball come round here, but what's he going to do there? He has a safety. Yeah, try and come off the 2 and try and get behind the 6. Not easy, but again, because I made that simple little shot there, just tying a ball up, and these balls were helping me. But even if these balls weren't helping you, it's still not a bad shot, because to make that ball come off the 2 rails and kick that ball out and get a shot is very difficult. But when you got blockers there as well, then it's 100% the shot. Because if my opponent played that shot and I come to the table, I'd be thinking, I feel like I have to play the 1 ball no matter what. So yeah, I'd probably play the 1 ball, try and come down table, and then probably play a resafe. But to be honest, I probably need to rethink that a little bit more and think, well, even though I can see the 1 ball, it's easy to make the 1 ball. The 2 ball's not really in a good situation because it's difficult to get down table, to get perfect, to play that safety behind the 6. So yeah, that's another situation where I might, if my opponent played that shot, I might even put him back in, even though it's very difficult to do that. So again, always look, if you're in a load of trouble like this situation here, always look to tie something up what's going to benefit you and keep you in the game. And if you do that, you're going to see the push outs a lot easier, a lot better, and they're going to help you beat your opponent to the shot. And that is the secret to the game. When I spent a lot of time in the Philippines, their knowledge of the game when it comes to pushing out and just outsmarting everyone else. I mean, Efren Reyes is just by far the greatest ever at beating everybody to the shot, and this is why, because he's just so creative and he's always 1 step in front of everyone else, and that's what made him great, really. He's just knowledge of the game is second to none, and that's where I learned a lot of my that's where I learned a lot of my game, and I've made huge improvements by just watching and learning and playing against the Filipinos. And you work out the percentages, and you just get more knowledge of the game, and that will take you to the next level when it comes to playing safe, when to play safe, and how. And the push out is probably the most important shot in pool. The 2 most important shots in pool is the push out or the first safety after the break, if you can see the ball. Because if you can beat your opponent to the shot more times than he can beat you to the shot, then that's going to give you a massive edge. Anyway, hope it helps you, and we'll see you next time.